Well, joining our discussion today are our guests in Athens, Kostas Ifantis, President of the Hellenic Center for European Studies. Also in Athens, John Sfakianakis, Chief Economist and General Manager at Banque Saudi Fransi. And in Paris, financial analyst Max Keiser. Gentlemen, thank you, all of you, for joining us. Kostas Ifantis, it's obvious that thousands of Greeks are angry, are irritated, but can we quantify it? How big do you think the opposition is to these measures?
Well, it's not easy to quantify it, but I think the majority of Greeks have come to realize that the situation is dire, is grave, and that all these years we've been living beyond and above our means, and now it's time to put our house in order.
But you may say that this is not representative of the majority. However, there are thousands who have taken to the streets against these austerity measures. Is it fair for a lot of Greek people, a lot of Greeks to be thinking, why should we suffer if we were not the cause of this crisis? We didn't create the crisis. Why are we suffering as a result?
Well, this is a easy way out. I mean, is a thinking that can rid us of all responsibility for what has been going on. But we should never forget that we Greeks we have been failing to pay our taxes properly. We've been engaged in a championship of tax fraud and tax evasion. We have been demanding more and more from the states. We have been sort of engaged in an apotheosis of what the state can do for us. We have demonized in many respects the private sector and private initiative. So I really don't think that a few thousands, even some thousands getting in the streets is representative of the general reading of the situation.
John Sfakianakis, do you think that this protest movement is representative of the anger and irritation at not only plunging into this deficit, suffering the crisis, but now having people having to tighten their belts as a result of it?
Well, thank you, first of all, for the invitation. I would say that this is not really representative. I would agree with your previous guest.
Max Keiser, the other two gentlemen characterized this as being Greece being in a position where it had no other alternatives. What do you make of it?
Well, first of all, put down the ouzo, and let's talk about some facts here. This debt to GDP ratio, which is now crippling the country. It was the same back in the year 2000. Why was it not reported? Because Goldman Sachs, in conjunction with the Greek government, hid billions and billions of debt. Now, this is the problem. The problem is that you've got bankers like Goldman Sachs and Wall Street colluding with the Greek government to falsify data. To rectify the problem, the Greek government is sent in their intelligence agency to investigate what's going on, and they've hired a former Goldman Sachs banker to head up this particular investigation. So they've got Stockholm Syndrome. They're being held captive by corrupt bankers on Wall Street, and they're blaming themselves. They're beating themselves for somebody else's corruption. That's the corruption on Wall Street. Now you have to laugh at this ridiculous situation, because here you've got two Greek analysts saying that, well, we should pay more taxes. We need to get rid of the black market. And yet Goldman Sachs, who advised them on this corruption last year, paid less than 1% in taxes. Goldman Sachs doesn't pay any taxes. So to finance Goldman Sachs Christmas bonuses, you're going to ask the Greek people to pay more taxes? Do the Greek people get compensated from Goldman Sachs? Do they own stock in Goldman Sachs? This is absurd. Why are you selling your countrymen down the road? And to say there's no alternative is false. There's insurrection is a possibility. Why not get rid of this government? They're totally corrupt.
Max Keiser, we know there's not going to be a bailout from France, Germany, the big countries within the European Union. Could Greece maybe go to the IMF for help, or would that be even worse?
Jumping out of the frying pan and into the fire. I mean, the IMF is Goldman Sachs. The IMF, World Bank, Goldman Sachs, Wall Street, they're all commingled. They're all working together. This has been now obvious since the credit collapse starting 2 years ago. As Warren Buffett said, when the tide goes out, you see who's not wearing a bathing suit. Now, as the credit crunch has basically deprived these countries and these companies in these countries of credit, we're seeing who is not capable of dealing in the credit crunch. And Greece is an obvious example, but so too is Spain and the other so-called pig nations. We also see it in Iceland, which is having a vote on March 6th whether or not to appease the financial terrorists on Wall Street, who did the same thing to Iceland. But here's the thing about France and Germany. Germany is the #2 exporter in the world. They don't mind if the euro goes down. So they're using Greece as a whipping boy. They'll say, look at Greece. We need to go in there and reform Greece. Look at bad Greece. Oh, the euro's in trouble. But they benefit hugely by the depression.
But that's not the issue, is it? Because
Max,
at a time of high unemployment at home and coming out of a recession, how do the likes of France and Germany justify to their people that they need to give more money to Greece? That's at the crux of it, isn't it?
Well, they're going to jawbone this issue all day long, but not take any action because they know that the professional speculators are driving down the euro. The short position, which are the negative bets on the euro, are at an historic high. Billions and billions of euros and dollars are bet on the euro's failure. Chief beneficiary of this is going to be Germany, who's a huge export market. So they're just using basically Greece, and the poor people in Greece who are losing their jobs and have to go through austerity measures. It has absolutely nothing to do with fundamental reform of that economy. They're basically sausage going through the Wall Street banking machine, and they need to ban Goldman Sachs from doing business in their country. They need to ban Wall Street firms from doing any business in their country. Until you get rid of the financial terrorists in your country is going to continue to lose jobs, unemployment is going to go up, and the quality of life is going to continue to go down because you're being held captive by financial terrorists. Don't you get it? Get rid of them. Or maybe you like being abused by terrorists. That could be your thing. You know, a lot of people enjoy that kind of sadomasochism. That might be something you're into. But if you're not into that, get rid of the financial terrorists from your country.